Hey there YouTube, That Flying Family here. This is the first family flight we've had since we got the GoPros at Christmas, so we figured we'd throw one of the cameras in the cockpit and figure out how to capture some video and how to get it from there out to you on YouTube. We got a lot to learn here. The first hard learning experience was that we purchased the Crystal Pilot audio adapter, and unfortunately you have to change the input source on the GoPro in order to capture that. So we had intended for you to be able to hear us talking to each other and with air traffic control, but all we got was engine noise. So we left a little bit of that in, lowered it so it wouldn't annoy anybody, and hence that's the reason you're hearing a voiceover. We're taking off from our home field, Shannon Airport, KEZF, here in Fredericksburg, Virginia. That's the FBO off to the right. It's a pretty brisk morning, about 33 degrees, so we're waiting on the cabin heat to come up. Many of you pilots know that feeling. A couple minutes into it though, we'll be nice and comfortable. The reason for the flight today, our daughter Mackenzie turned 18 recently, and she's taken a trip to see a friend in South Carolina, and instead of driving her to the airport, we decided why not jump in the airplane, skip the drive, and fly in instead. So we're headed to Richmond International, which is where we usually fly out of when we go commercial. Our first experimental footage is using the GoPro Max, which is a 360-degree camera. So in case you haven't noticed yet, you should be able to look around and pan on a phone or an iPad. And on the computer, I believe you can pan around as well, but you should be able to get a 360-degree view of what's going on here in the cockpit. Richmond International is less than 50 nautical miles, but we went ahead and picked up flight following from Potomac Approach because I knew that would make the transition into Richmond's Charlie airspace much easier. Feel free to take a look around while we do the in-flight portion of this video. At this point, the approach controller has just transferred us over to the tower, and they've cleared us for our VFR descent. We flew down at about 5,500 feet, and it's time to get down to pattern altitude. We did spot a bright yellow Spirit Airlines flight landing on the crossing runway just prior to our touchdown. I think that's the point where my daughters realized that, hey, this is pretty real, and this is a big airport. This is the first time they've flown into a larger airport with jets. On this day at Richmond International, they were landing the airliners on runway 16, which you'll see off to the left here in a second. So I went ahead and kept my approach very fast, actually about 100 knots, to get down and out of the controller's way. Due to that high approach speed, you can see it takes quite a bit of time and ground effect here to lose all that extra momentum going forward. It turns out that they had us taxi almost all the way to the other end, so this turned out to be a pretty good thing as the taxi took quite a while. As you'll see here in a moment when we taxi off to the right, Richmond's a relatively smaller hub airport. In recent years, though, more airlines have begun to operate there, so the prices have become pretty competitive. Reagan National DCA is actually closer to our home as far as the car goes, but with the drive time, sometimes nightmare traffic to Washington, D.C., and the TSA lines at Reagan being so long, Richmond doesn't have any of that. So it's really become our go-to airport when we fly commercially. And we've just contacted the ground controller and we're waiting to get our taxi instructions. Unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, we didn't capture that communication because of the input setting. So next time, hopefully you'll be able to hear us talking in the cockpit and a lot of the air traffic communications. There's 2 FBOs at Richmond International, and we chose to go with Millionaire based on some very positive reviews and ForeFlight. There was a $25 ramp fee because we were not able to make a fuel purchase. As I stated before, this was less than 50 nautical miles, so we only burned a couple of gallons on the way down. Staff was very friendly. They drove us to the main terminal in a very nice courtesy van, and I would definitely say we'll be back again, and if you're ever in the Richmond area, that's a pretty good FBO to stop at. We hope you enjoyed some of this experimental footage with the GoPro Max. We have a GoPro 9 as well, and we'll be looking forward to figuring out where to get that mounted. The goal would be probably to capture some of the flight instruments, so our flying pilot friends out there, I know you guys are very interested, as I am, as I watch all the different YouTube channels, and what the pilot's seeing in the various phases of flight. We'll definitely be getting the production quality up as we learn more about this process. Adobe Premiere Pro is quite a program to learn, as many of you probably know that do these videos. But we hope you'll stay tuned, and if you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe if you'd like to follow along on that Flying Family's adventures. Thank you.